So I said earlier today that people should ask, what is God trying to tell me with some of these things that go on? Because I said I look at everything through the biblical lens. Maybe I shouldn't look at I don't know if that's wrong or not. I don't think it is. It can't hurt, put it that way. So one of the biggest things, the reason I was saying that, especially given with Trump, is because there comes a point when there's too many coincidences, okay? It's mathematically impossible. So, again, God raises up all the kings, even the ones that are bad, even Obama, even the lawless one. And it's usually based on the people. So, but if you look at some kings in the Bible, King David for one, okay? King David beat Goliath, when in all reality he shouldn't have been able to, but he did with God. He helped secure Israel's borders and protect Israel. Yeah. Israel at one point, while all the other nations had kings, they had God as their king. They did. And then they said, we want a king. We want a human king. And God wasn't particularly thrilled with that, but he gave it to them because they wanted to be like all the other nations. So that's part of the reason America, that we don't have kings. It's not because we think kings are all bad. They're not. They're raised up for a reason. They're leaders. They're important for a reason. There is a reason the Kennedys helped Obama Sr. get here and then him get Ann Dunham pregnant, because Ann Dunham had lineage to some royalty lines. Most of your presidents have ties to royalty lineage, not always good royalty. But Donald Trump's is quite unique because, well, I mean, it's not just King James the First. It's, he's part of royalty with the Clan MacLeod. I mean, it's a Highland, a huge Highland clan in Scotland. He's considered, I think, the son of Norway. Yeah, because he doesn't just go back to one king. He goes back to King Haruk. I forget. You can go look it up. Iceland did it. And so there's several all in the West that he goes back to kings. And then, of course, Mary, Queen of Scots' great-great-great-grandfather was a king of Israel. So what would God be trying to tell you then when he raises up Donald Trump and everybody in the world is going after him? Well, he's trying to tell you that I'm protecting you, America. Recognize that I'm protecting you. God raised up King Josiah to help lead the people back to God. Some kings, King Hezekiah, he was so faithful. He believed it. He was such a faithful king that God took care of some enemies to Israel without them having to lift a finger, because that king was so faithful. That's how great a king can be. That's why I said earlier, it depends on if the king is not following God's will and decides, I'm going to go follow the Holy See. Because, I mean, the Catholic Church, that Holy Father is like God said not to call anybody here Father, and he didn't mean your dad. So that's a big deal. So God isn't going to recognize that because you've decided to hand your will over to the Holy Father, no matter how much you want to twist and turn it. So then ask yourself, how is it that JFK gets shot twice, okay, in an open convertible in the middle of the day in Dallas, and yet Trump is spared? Reagan is spared. RFK is murdered. MLK is murdered. All those three were murdered within a 5-year period. Not to mention Tom Mboya, who was he was a politician of some kind, but he was the one pushing for the Kenya students to come here that Kennedy paid for. But the Kennedys they were all tied with the Catholic Church. God was not having any of that crap. Are you kidding me? So it's obvious. You can tell yourself, like the atheists would, that no, they just all got lucky and JFK didn't. No, no, no. Come on. Mm-mm. Trump just happened to turn his head at that time. And Reagan, I want to say they tried to shoot Reagan twice. Once they hit him, but he wasn't fatal. But one of his was it Secret Service? I think the guy's name was Brady, maybe. He ended up paralyzed. Took a gunshot protecting him to the back. So that's how you know. I mean, when they're going after these leaders, okay, when you have a media that is promoting the JFKs, promoting the Bidens, promoting the Hillarys, all the trash, then you will never see that anybody try to shoot them. You don't. But if somebody did, like in the case of JFK, well, God says, I'm busy that day. And he does, because you made your loyalties to the Catholic Church, to the Holy Father, so let him intervene. I mean, that's how God is. It is, That's why I said, ask yourself. So God, over and over again in the Bible, uses kings to protect people, to protect the nation, and to lead a nation back to him. Or it can be all of those things. So there's a reason that they had that Kennedy's helped Obama Sr. come here and get with Ann Dunham, because Ann Dunham was tied to some royalty. All of the presidents have been. They do. Everybody's looked how they all are in some ways related, but some are more significant than others. Donald Trump being the most significant. He's the only president that his family line never owned any slaves. So the very fact that the media and everybody in the world goes after him tells you that he's a good leader. Whether you want to call it a president, it's still a king, okay? And so what is God trying to tell you? That, well, if you look into Donald Trump, it seems rather strange that he's, ancestry to Mary Queen of Scots. And see, what's interesting about Mary Queen of Scots is she's really where the line should have went to, was her. But she was a Catholic. She ended up killed. I mean, King James I barely knew her, and many people say he didn't care. I don't know if that's true. That was back in, he was like, he became king when he was a baby, and grew into it. He didn't know her very long, and she was locked up. Why? Well, God does not recognize the Holy Father. He doesn't, because when he says in his word, do not call any leaders of the church father, then you shouldn't do it. Okay? But that church has managed to convince everybody, it's okay. So I'm just saying those are some important things to look at. Because why would just Donald Trump be spared? Why would Reagan be spared? And why didn't RFK, JFK, MLK, why weren't they spared? Because God knew what they were all up to. And it was bringing in your communism and Marxism and making sure Obama, a Kenya person, Obama Sr., got with some, somebody that had some royalty line, because everybody that goes in has to have some royalty line. I mean, it just happens to work out that way. I don't know why. I do know why. It's because God raises them up. He does. So you want a faithful king. And you can tell when they are. Because everybody in the world will attack them and act like that they're corrupt because they hate them. And that's how you know that they're truly the good leaders. And that whether you call them presidents or head of state or king, it's all the same in God's eyes. So he raised Trump up for a reason. For a good reason. That's why I said, ask yourself, what is God trying to tell you? He's trying to tell you that I raise up your leaders, and when they don't follow me, they don't last long.